Hi, this is Denis Waitley. I'm excited about sharing the essence of my new book, The Seeds of Greatness, with you. You know, I used to think the seeds of greatness were special genes or inborn talents. But after 20 years of research and 50 years of first-hand knowledge, I've learned that the seeds of greatness are not dependent upon the gifted birth, the inherited bank account, the intellect, the skin-deep beauty, the race, the color, nor the status. The seeds of greatness are attitudes and beliefs. I think I've uncovered 10 of the most important character traits that are common to those individuals who become so uncommonly successful as human beings. As you and I explore the essence of each of these seeds of greatness, I'll reveal the key thought in each seed as one of the best-kept secrets of total success.
Welcome to this Listen and Learn program, filled with useful information. This session is designed to sharply increase your awareness on the subject and give you ideas and knowledge that you can put to work right away. As with all Listen and Learn programs, you hear from the experts, people who have already been there and who have had success. Of course, we can't hope to present everything there is to know in a short session like this, but we will give you all the important highlights so that you'll have a good overview when you've completed the session. For more information, listen to the message at the end of this cassette. Okay? Let's begin. Listen, learn, and enjoy.
Dr. Denis Waitley is a national authority on high-level performance and personal development. He graduated from the United States Naval Academy and holds a doctorate in human behavior. He's also president of the La Jolla Clinic Research Foundation. Dr. Waitley has counseled leaders in every field, from management to Super Bowl and Olympic athletes to astronauts, and has worked with Vietnam POWs as well as the Iranian hostages. We're sure you'll find this program extremely interesting and motivating. Here again, Dr. Denis Waitley.
The first seed of greatness is the seed of self-esteem. And in my opinion, self-esteem is the single most important human quality in a successful person. It's amazing how delicate and fragile self-esteem really is for each of us. The fear of rejection can be traced to early criticisms that we receive from our parents, other members of our families, our teachers, our business associates, and our friends. It is the association of ourselves with our mistakes. Parents make the classic errors in raising their children by saying bad boy or naughty girl, shape up or ship out, crybaby, whiner puss, spoiled brat, loudmouth, and clumsy. While we parents really mean for these labels to apply to our children's behavior, unfortunately the child takes them personally, unable to separate who he or she is from what he or she does. That's called confusing the doer with the deed. It's devastating to a child or to a subordinate in business. As children become of school age, they get it from parents and peers coming and going. Fatso, beaver teeth, buzzard beak, freckle face, beanpole, ugly, four eyes, stupid, motor mouth, metal mouth, sloppy, old unreliable, punker, gross, uncoordinated, and even turtle breath. You know, even when we're in college or professional life, it's not much different. They call it radical or dense or boring or square or straight or weird or bigot or establishment or uptight or wild or uninteresting or lazy or a loser. Individuals who become subjected to the environments full of put-downs and criticism often become critical adults with less than adequate self-esteem. The fear of rejection becomes the fear of change, and they tend to seek security in positions where you go with the system and you don't rock the boat. The fear of change translates into the fear of success, and the fear of success, in my estimation, is just about as strong as the fear of rejection. The fear of success syndrome, which paralyzes the majority in our society today, is really the fear of trying. Its manifestations are rationalization and procrastination. I hear it in conversation every day. You know, I can't imagine myself successful. Or, I can see it for you, but I can't see it for me. Most individuals realize that common people have become uncommonly productive by believing in their own worth. They have observed the biographies of individuals who have overcome enormous handicaps and roadblocks to become great, but they can't believe it can happen to themselves. They resign themselves to mediocrity and even failure, wishing and envying away their lives. They develop the habit of looking back at past problems, which I call failure reinforcement, and they imagine similar bad performances in the future, which I call failure forecasting. Because they are controlled by rejection and acceptance standards set by others, they often set their sights unrealistically high, not really believing in the validity of their dreams and not preparing enough for their achievement. They fall short again and again. Failure becomes set as the standard of their self-esteem, and just when they seem to break through or get on top or make real progress, they blow it. In truth, the fear of success caused them to procrastinate the preparation and creative action necessary for success, and rationalization sets in to satisfy the subconscious feeling that you can't expect to get ahead when you've been through what I have. The first best-kept secret of total success is that we must feel love inside ourselves before we can give it to others. We must feel love inside ourselves before we can give it to others. Simple, isn't it? If there is no deep internalized feeling of value inside of us, then we have nothing to give to or share with others. Oh, sure, we can need them, we can be dependent upon them, we can look for security in them, we can indulge them, flatter them, and attempt to purchase them, but we cannot share or give an emotion to anyone else unless we first possess that emotion inside ourselves. Successful people believe in their own worth even when they have nothing but a dream to hang on to. Why? Because their own self-worth is stronger than the rejection or acceptance of their ideas by others. Material achievements are standards of excellence in products or projects that fill a need. However, there is just as much value in the inventor before his product is mass-produced as there is after he has made his fortune. And in so knowing, he or she has the courage to go forward. Walt Disney was said to have asked 10 people what they thought of a new idea, and if they were unanimous in their rejection of it, he would begin work on it immediately. Of course, he was used to being rejected. He was bankrupt when he went around Hollywood with his little Steamboat Willie cartoon idea. Can you imagine him trying to sell a talking mouse with a falsetto in silent movie days? Well, Walt dreamed the big dream, and children everywhere from Disney World in Japan to Epcot Center in Florida will be forever grateful. Was Walt Disney a better man while he was broke and still narrating the original voice of Mickey Mouse? Or after he made all those great movies? Or after he built Disneyland? Well, Walt Disney had the self-esteem to hang in there when the only reward was his belief in himself. He realized that value is in the doer, not the deed. The word esteem means to appreciate the value of. In the human being, I believe it is the beginning and the first seed to all success. It is the basis for our ability to love others and to try to accomplish a worthy goal without fear. Narcissistic self-gratification is a purely materialistic type of self-worship, but self-esteem is based upon the internalization of value and spiritual love. Self-acceptance, as we are right now, is the key to healthy self-esteem. Seeing ourselves as worthwhile, changing, imperfect, growing individuals, and knowing that although we are not born with equal mental and physical uniforms, we are born with the equal right to feel deserving of excellence according to our own internal standards. You are a masterpiece of creation, so always carry with you the secret. Love must be within us before it can be given. The second seed, the seed of creativity, is within each of us. Among all living organisms on the earth, only the human being was created without a built-in software program for successful living. Insects, animals, and birds know instinctively how they must behave and what they must do in order to survive. Humans also have survival instincts, but we also possess abilities much more marvelous and complex than any animal. The human being, with no pre-recorded computer program as a life guide, is blessed with a creative imagination. This is why healthy role models and positive value education are so important. Since we are not predestined as members of a wandering herd, victimized and imprisoned within a fixed environment, we need maps and charts to guide us. In successful individuals, role models and values become our maps and charts. In unsuccessful individuals, these become walls and reefs. All individuals are born without a sense of self. We are like tape recorders without the key message. Through observation and experience, we tape record our video, audio, and sensory cassettes of ourselves. This recorded self-concept or self-image, this mental picture of self, when nourished and cultivated, is a primary field in which happiness and success can grow and flourish. But this same mental self-concept, when undernourished or neglected, becomes a spawning pond for low achievement, deviant behavior, and unhappiness. You've heard the old cliche, you are what you eat. Well, I'd like to offer you a new one to share with colleagues and family members. You are what you watch and think. Unfortunately, too many people exist on a mental diet of television, motion pictures created to shock us, and slick publication designed to stimulate us, and cocktail parties designed to escape with. I consider most of what we have available as junk food that leads to mental malnutrition and poor emotional health. Television constantly exposes us to the antisocial behavior performed by the incompetent, the uncouth, and the insane. At the other extreme are the superheroes with unnatural strength and superhuman abilities, who are beautiful and handsome. When average individuals compare themselves to their TV heroes, they usually see themselves as inadequate. We are growing up with television as our window to the world, and the TV world has become the basis for many of our beliefs and values. By the time we graduate from high school, most of us will have spent 50% more time in front of the TV set than in the classroom or having quality experiences with our families. We can't blame the television industry for the situation, because the quality of programming is only a reflection of the character of our families in the American social scene. But let's remember, if a 60-second commercial by repeated viewing can sell us a product, then isn't it possible for a 60-minute soap opera by repeated viewing to sell us a lifestyle? Well, it's food for thought. Recent studies conducted by a Stanford University research team have revealed that what we watch does have an effect on our imaginations and our learning patterns and our behaviors. First, we are exposed to new behaviors and characters. Next, we learn to acquire these new behaviors. The last and most crucial step is that we adopt these behaviors as our own. One of the most critical aspects of human development that we need to understand is the influence of repeated viewing and repeated verbalizing in shaping our future. The information goes in harmlessly, almost unnoticed, on a daily basis, but we don't react to it until later, when we aren't able to realize the basis for our reactions. In other words, our value system is being formed without any conscious awareness on our part of what is happening. Wow. That's why it's so important to watch, listen to, and read creative material as a daily diet. What if you and I could switch TV channels to one inside of our own head, in which our minds were cameras instead of receivers? What if we actually scripted, produced, casted, rehearsed, and broadcast our own programs, and at the same time videotaped them for our own enjoyment and for future broadcasts? Well, we can and we do every day and night of our lives. And therein lies the second secret of total success. The second best kept secret of total success is that our minds can't tell the difference between real experience and experience that is vividly and repeatedly imagined. Understanding this secret of the power of the imagined experience is the key to understanding human behavior. Many of our everyday decisions are based upon information about ourselves which have been stored as truth, but which is really a combination of hearsay from family, friends, and peers, and actual past experiences and information that we read and listen to and view on television. During every moment of our lives, we program our imaginations, or we allow others to program them, to work for us or against us. I had the opportunity to interview and study a number of POWs when they returned from Vietnam, many of whom were pilots who had been shot down by Soviet-made SAM missiles. I also interviewed several of the former hostages after their release from the U.S. Embassy in Iran. It didn't take our POWs or hostages long to figure out the second best kept secret. In the absence of any materials, tools, or comforts, they simply created them in their imaginations. They recalled most of the inspirational events and significant learning stored in their memories, which I refer to as instant replay, and they previewed coming attractions of Emmy Award-winning TV series in their imaginations. Every color, every smile, every touch, every word, every picture, every detail. This is what I call instant pre-play, or the creative ability to fantasize where you plan to be in the future. The concentration on reinforcing positive, healthy experiences from the past and the simulation of a successful project or lifestyle as if it were actually happening in the present, this is the gift of creativity. Your mental picture of yourself is the key to your healthy development. You are the writer, director, and the star of either an Oscar-winning epic or a grade B movie. Who you see in your imagination will always rule your world. You also are your greatest critic. You can devastate your self-esteem with sarcastic and negative reviews of your daily performance, or you can elevate your self-image with encouraging and positive feedback and previews of coming great attractions. Your self-talk is being monitored and recorded minute to minute by your self-image. So when you're talking to yourself, watch your language. My grandmother taught me a lot about the seeds of greatness while we were planting a victory garden in her yard during World War II. I especially remember her words on the third seed, the seed of responsibility, which she quoted from Madame Chiang Kai-shek. If the past has taught us anything, it is that every cause brings its effect. Every action has a consequence. The Chinese have a saying, if a man plants melons, he will reap melons. If he sows beans, he will reap beans. And this is true of everyone's life. Good begets good, and evil leads to evil. True enough, the sun shines on the saint and the sinner alike, and too often it seems that the wicked prosper. But we can say with certainty that with the individual as with the nation, the flourishing of the wicked is an illusion, for unceasingly, life keeps books on all of us. In the end, we are the sum total of our actions. Character cannot be counterfeited, nor can it be put on and cast off as if it were a garment to meet the whim of the moment. Like the markings on wood, which are ingrained in the very heart of the tree, character requires time and nurturing for growth and development. Thus also, day by day, we write our own destiny, for inexorably we become what we do. The third best-kept secret of total success is that our rewards in life will depend on the quality and amount of contribution we make. We want freedom, but are we willing to pay that price anymore? Well, I believe that you and I are. Cause and effect is the secret, taking responsibility today for tomorrow's results. The culprit standing in our way is disguised in a 6-word slogan, relief is just to swallow away. The greatest single cause of what's ailing America, in my opinion, is the irresponsible obsession with immediate sensual gratification. We want sex without intimacy. We want love without commitment. We want benefit packages without production requirements. Pain, sacrifice, and effort are unacceptable. If it feels good right away, I'll try it. If I can't be certain to win, I won't enter. I want the American dream I saw on TV and in the movies and one my parents said I'd get because I'm so special, and I want it now. Perhaps the major factor responsible for the success of the Japanese in building greatness out of ashes is their willingness to look ahead to the future while putting in a maximum effort or work and sacrifice in the present. Japanese workers save an estimated 20% of their spendable incomes, more than triple that of Americans. In Japan, it's called discretionary income, which means there's a choice to spend it all or save some of it. In America, we call it disposable income, and when we get it, we hasten to dispose of it. It seems obvious to everyone but us as individuals that we Americans are disposing of our past rewards faster than we are replenishing our investment today for future harvesting. Instead of merely resting on our laurels, we may actually be pawning them. As a society, we protest for individual liberty and social order in the same breath. We strive for material wealth, but hope for spiritual health as a byproduct. We plead for more protection from crime, but demand less interference in our social habits. We want to cut taxes, take the great risk, and build our own destinies. And at the same time, we want more financial security and safety provided by our government. But we can't have it both ways. If we want results, we must pay the price. The way to build self-reliance is to recognize the number of alternative choices we have in a free society. When I interviewed our returning POWs and former hostages from Iran, the thing they said they missed most of all was their freedom of choice. There are two primary choices in life, One, to accept conditions as they exist, or two, to accept the responsibility for changing them. A recent University of California study indicates that the happiest, best-adjusted individuals are those who believe that they have a strong measure of control over their lives. They seem to choose more appropriate responses to what occurs and to stand up to inevitable changes with less apprehension. They learn from their past mistakes rather than replay them. They spend more time doing in the present rather than fearing what may happen. The opposite type of individuals believe in luck or fate or jinx or wrong time at the wrong place, astrological and biorhythm accuracy, and you can't fight City Hall. They are prone to give in to doubt and fear and suffer greater emotional and physical problems as a result. When we study the Japanese success, and when we learn of the thousands of boat people and immigrants who have come out of the ghetto into greatness in this country, we realize the truth. In abundant America, many victims of the system are actually volunteers who are cooperating in their own failure. To be self-reliant adults, we need to get some guidelines. Be different if it means higher personal and professional standards of behavior. Be different if it means being cleaner, neater, and better groomed than the group. It's always better to arrive for any function looking slightly better than looking slightly worse than the group. Be different if it means to put more time and effort into all you do. Be different if it means to take the calculated risk. The greatest risk in life is to wait for and depend upon others for your security. The greatest security is to plan and act and take the risk that will make you independent. You and I have learned that no one else can really rain on our parade. We have to choose to allow them to. We choose what concerns us from moment to moment, and you and I respond rather than react to others. What concerns us most is the joy of living, and we realize that we are responsible for causing our own effects in life. We tackle the toughest, most challenging assignments in our lives first, understanding that our gratification will come after we have made the effort to do the job right. We tell our employers what we are going to offer them before we ask them about the pay scale and benefit package. We are well aware that our true rewards in life will depend upon the quality and amount of contribution that we make. We know that by planting the seeds of great ideas early, we will become great individuals. Seed number 4 is the seed of wisdom. In ancient Rome, being a sculptor was a popular profession. You were not really considered to be in the mainstream if your home or place of work didn't have several statues of the gods adorning it. As with every industry, there was good and bad quality in the statue business. When upon occasion a sculptor would make a mistake in carving a particular statue, the crack or chipped area would be filled in with wax. Sculptors became so good at remodeling with wax that most people couldn't tell the difference in quality with the naked eye. So if anyone wanted an authentic statue of fine quality, carved by someone who really took pride in his work, he would go to the artisan marketplace in the Quad in Rome and look for the signs at the booths that were marked Sina Sera, without wax. In the Sina Sera shops, he would find the real thing. You know, in everything we do in life, we are looking for those items and for those individuals who represent the real thing. More than any other virtue we look for in people, we value sincerity without wax the most. In the previous seed, I described responsibility as understanding the great law of cause and effect. Well, this 4th seed is devoted to wisdom, which is the combination of honesty and knowledge applied through experience. Wisdom is honest knowledge in action. There is no greater example of the law of cause and effect than that which is demonstrated in the results of a person's honesty or dishonesty. There can be no real success without honesty. Some way, some place, sometime, somehow, the person or house of wax will melt to reveal the fraud inside. Knowledge is the frontier of tomorrow. Brain is becoming more and more the master of brawn. Our struggle for physical survival may not be as crucial now and in the future as our ability to survive and coexist intellectually amid all of the fallout of our technological progress. One of the major problems we have in trying to work with each other toward mutually beneficial solutions to our problems lies in our ability or inability to express our thoughts in words. Frustration with this inability often results in physical violence. While violence has been increasing each year, the nation's vocabulary level has been decreasing approximately 1 percentage point each year over the same period. Regardless of education, most people use only about 400 words in more than 80% of their everyday conversation. Although there are over 450,000 words in an unabridged English language dictionary, we use the same words over and over again. If we were to learn only 10 new words each day for 1 year, we could become among the most learned and well-spoken individuals in the world. A powerful secret of success came to me as a result of my research into aptitude testing, and it has real value in determining the success people experience in their everyday lives. Human engineering research over 50 years indicates that one of the most important aptitudes for success also is a mystery to 95% of the world's population. The fourth best-kept secret of total success is that a large vocabulary, which implies broad general knowledge, characterizes the more successful persons regardless of their occupations. And it should please you to know that reading and listening are the best ways to gain knowledge and a greater vocabulary. Only 5% of the people living in the United States will either buy or read a book or tape program this year or any year. As you continue to learn, you'll gain more knowledge about your natural talents and the skills you can develop to take advantage of them. As you read and listen, you will be able to express your ideas more clearly. You will identify and seek out the best role models to help accelerate your success. And the more education you receive, the happier you will become. As Thomas Wolfe summed it up in The Web and the Rock, if we have a talent and do not use it, we have failed. If we have a talent and use only half of it, we have partly failed. If we have a talent and learn somehow to use all of it, we have gloriously succeeded and won a satisfaction and triumph that few individuals ever know. You and I know that wisdom depends not so much on the number of words we know, but how we use them to express ourselves to others. It also depends upon the honest assessment of our talents and the determination to use them to the fullest. We apply this wisdom to our children and our associates. We live this wisdom every day, and we never stop reaching. The fifth seed of greatness is the seed of purpose. Remember in Alice in Wonderland when Alice comes to the junction in the road that leads in different directions, and she asks the Cheshire Cat for direction? "Oh, Cheshire Puss, would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?" "Well, that depends a good deal on where you want to go to," said the cat. "I don't much care where," said Alice. "Then it doesn't matter which way you go," said the cat. The grinning feline spoke words of truth, didn't he? If we really don't know where we want to go, then any road will take us there, and it really doesn't matter what we do in life. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, only 3 out of every 100 Americans reach age 65 with any degree of financial security. 97 out of 100 Americans who are 65 and over must depend upon their monthly Social Security checks to survive. Now, is this because the American dream has been shattered by world economic realities? Well, this is partially the cause, but there are deeper considerations. Would it surprise you to learn that only 5% of the Americans in the higher income professions, such as law and medicine, reach age 65 without having to depend upon Social Security? I was astounded to learn that so few individuals achieve any degree of financial success, regardless of their level of income during their most productive years. That's why I think this message is so important for you to review and to pass along to others close to you. Most people live their lives under the delusion that they're immortal in the body. They squander their money and their time and their minds with activities that are routine and tension-relieving instead of goal-achieving. Most people work to get through the week with enough extra money to spend on the weekend. Most people hope that the winds of fate will blow them into some rich and mysterious port of call. They look forward to when they can retire someday in the distant future and live on a fantasy island somewhere. I ask them how they'll accomplish this, and they respond, somehow. The fifth best-kept secret of total success is that the reason so many individuals fail to achieve their goals in life is that they never really set them in the first place. In all of my goal-setting seminars, it's obvious that the majority of people spend more time planning a Christmas party or vacation than they do planning their own lives. And by failing to plan, they're actually planning to fail by default. There is a power within, a driving mechanism that moves us toward our dominant thoughts. We've learned that our mind can't tell the difference between a real event that took place and one that was vividly imagined. So once the self-image receives a goal message with enough detail and frequency, that goal will become a habit that we accept as part of us. Have you ever stopped to think about your habits? How many do you have that you really don't want, or that are not good for your mental or physical health? Smoking, drinking too much, overeating, being late, nail biting, feeling depressed or cynical. These are all subconscious habits, most of which are learned by observation and then imitation and repetition. My own children are learning early about the visualization and the dream lists and the power within of goal setting. They don't completely understand the subconscious self-image, but they are tuned in completely on visualization of the dominant thought. I came down to breakfast one morning and stubbed my toe on a giant metal dish with lead weights in the bottom. I said, "What's that landmine doing in the path of the refrigerator?" My daughter Dana said, "That's my dog's dish, Dad." And I growled, "You don't have a dog and you aren't getting a dog, and that's the end of that goal." "But Dad," she came back, "you said if you really set your mind on something and get all the information on it and imagine as if you already had it, that you'd get it. That's why I spent my allowance on my dog's dish." I interrupted her, as parents often do. "I know what I said, but that was at the seminar and on the tapes. But we're home now in real life, and dads have to approve their kids' goals in advance." Obviously, she wasn't listening. She was focusing on her dog goal, because on Saturday I caught her walking down the street in front of the house, dragging a leash with nothing on it, and talking to it. "What are you doing talking to yourself with that empty chain?" I asked. She replied sweetly that she was practicing taking him for a walk. I told her to practice in her room because the neighbors thought we were weird already, watching me mow the lawn in my Navy jet flight suit. "If you ever got a dog," I said, "which you won't, what kind would it be, honey?" I was curious now, and she complied eagerly. "He's got a black fur coat with brown on his stomach and upper legs and a white diamond on his forehead and crystal clear blue eyes." She pulled out a little manual on the care and feeding of Malamute puppies. "You'll learn to love Chemo, Dad." "What do you mean, Chemo?" I retorted. "I've named him Chemo," she said, "short for Kemosabe, which is Indian for good friend. You remember the Lone Ranger in Tano." The conversation was becoming impossible. Well, the next day was Father's Day. It had been a setup all along. When I came downstairs in my old bathrobe after sleeping in, I was going to have a bowl of 4 kinds of cereal, break open a 6-pack, and watch every baseball game and old movie I could find on TV, with no kids allowed in the house. But when I got downstairs, my kids were all dressed to go for an outing, and they gave me a card with a classified ad taped on the back. "Last of the litter, one adorable AKC Malamute puppy, purebred, paper shots, drive by today. Hurry, this one won't last." "Don't you want to take your children for a drive on Father's Day?" the little darlings all chimed in together. "No, I don't," I said. "I'm going to be a regular vidiot and glue myself to the TV all day." They came back at me with their own version of Harry Chapin's classic song, "The Cat's in the Cradle." "Oh, that's okay, Dad, don't be blue, 'cause we're going to grow up just like you. And someday when you're old and gray, you'll want us to visit you on Father's Day. And you'll say, 'Come over, kids, and visit me.' But we'll say, 'Sorry, Dad, we're watching TV.' Oh, that's okay, Dad, don't be blue. We're going to grow up just like you." I said quietly, "Why don't we go for a drive then?" I sat in the car while they visited the puppy in the kennel, just to visit, not to buy. He came through their legs down to the car and rolled on his back to have his tummy scratched. And I think it was the blue eyes that did it. He licked my shoe. He knew who his master was. I said, "Come on, Chemo, get in the car and let's go home and watch the ball game." The dog cost $500. The fence cost $500, and he ate the lawn furniture and my best Adidas jogging shoes. He came through the screen door, which was locked, and he chewed a hole in my wife's new Persian rug, which had a mural of a Canadian snow goose woven in the middle, and Chemo thought it was a turkey and tried to eat it. And I grabbed him and made him spit out the yarn and wove every strand through the back, trying to fix it. When my wife came home from the store, the kids and I were sitting quietly in the corner. "What happened to my rug?" she exclaimed, beginning to examine it. "Oh, we were just roughhousing on it and got it a little dirty, and I shampooed it for you," I stammered. "Best that you don't step on it just yet. Better wait a day or two until it dries." And while we were in the other room, my wife got out the vacuum cleaner and sucked the center out of the rug. "Good heavens," she shrieked, "what have you done to my beautiful rug?" I tried to soothe her. It's probably one of those Iranian rugs and doesn't stand up well under normal environmental conditions. Your dog did this, she cried. It's not my dog, I protested. It's your daughter's dog. But you bought it, she said icily. But she thought it, I countered. And the air was rather cool around the house for the next week or two. Every time my wife walked past the spot where the rug used to lie, she muttered things about dogs and husbands, as if they belonged together. She also said she wished lecturers would practice what they preached at seminars. And as for Chemo, he grew up to be a fine family pet and a watchdog. And all of my kids believe in their dreams, and they realize how important it is to have someone to help you reach your goals. And the reason most people don't reach their goals is they don't define them, learn about them, or ever seriously consider them as believable or achievable. Remember, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So you and I know where we're going, and we are living our lives on purpose. The sixth seed of greatness is the seed of communication. Two basic aspects of communication that I believe are the most important are empathy and love. One of the best ways to begin to practice empathy is to be more open and sensitive to the needs and differences of others. Successful individuals look at relative viewpoints rather than absolutes. The prelude to empathy is realizing that each human being on earth is a person with equal rights to fulfill his or her own potential in life. It is understanding that skin color, birthplace, political beliefs, sex, financial status, and intelligence are not the measures of worth or worthiness. The path to communication is accepting the fact that every human being is a distinctly unique individual and thinking how good that is. No two people are alike, not even identical twins. Empathy is understanding that a busload of people riding home from work through the city will see the same scene from entirely different viewpoints. One will see the depressing, dilapidated buildings. Another will see an ideal site for a redevelopment project. Another, his face buried in his own problems, will see nothing. And still another person, her eyes eagerly scanning a textbook, will see a way out of the ghetto. It's important to try to view the world of others as they see it, rather than as we see it. And one way to do this is to look for the good in others, regardless of how different their appearance, their lifestyle, and their particular beliefs are from our own. By looking for the good in others, you are communicating love, and love is the one message that we all need most. Valentines are love letters with simple statements of affection, and I'd like to give you a Valentine to explain as fundamentally as possible what love really is. L is for listen. To love someone is to listen unconditionally to his or her values and needs without prejudice. O is for overlook. To love someone is to overlook the flaws and the faults in favor of looking for the good. V is for voice. To love someone is to voice your approval of him or her on a regular basis. There is no substitute for honest encouragement, positive strokes, and praise. E is for effort. To love someone is to make a constant effort to spend the time, to make the sacrifice, to go the extra mile to show your interest. In the first message on self-esteem, we talked about the need for independence and the ability to share ourselves with others out of choice, not out of different need. True love is that relationship formed by two individuals who have the ability of separately sustaining themselves. Only independent people are free to choose to stay in a relationship. People who are dependent remain in a relationship out of a necessity. Touch is the magic wand of intimacy. Love is keeping in touch. Intimacy, touching, communicating all take time. And the most precious moments you and I will ever spend with our children are those moments just before they go to sleep at night. Many activities are going on in the normal family in the early evening. There's dinner and homework and chores and video games and finances and meetings and television and phone calls and visitors and friends and pets, just to name a few. Little wonder that the average American parent spend less than 7 minutes each week alone with each child, one-on-one, at a time when each one is receptive. Children spend more time watching television than they do communicating with their parents or acquiring an education. The sixth best-kept secret of total success is that a touch is worth 1,000 words. As good communicators, you and I get in touch with strangers by extending our hands first, knowing it is the time-proven courtesy for paying value to others. And along with the firm handshake, We use direct eye contact and a warm, open smile to project our interest in communication. We volunteer our own name first when meeting strangers, and we precede our name with good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening. This also holds true for telephone communication. Once you and I introduce ourselves, we become active listeners who listen for feelings with empathy. We understand that listeners learn a great deal, while talkers learn nothing. We look forward to new contacts and friends, and we talk easily with strangers. We look at people when we talk to them or listen to them, and we listen openly and carefully, even though we may disagree with what they are saying. We treat the other person as an equal. We listen to the seemingly dull and ignorant because they too have their story. We ask questions without imposing. We try to find special qualities in strangers and praise them sincerely. We draw strangers out by getting them to talk about themselves. We are easy to understand and easy to get along with. We don't assume what the other party's reaction will be to what we say, nor do we try to read his or her mind. We're confident in meeting strangers because we understand that no matter how secure other people may seem, almost everyone is eager to meet new people to gain a friendship or for personal development. We realize that almost everyone has a normal tendency to harbor a little fear of rejection or of exploitation. When you and I face a potential friend, a business prospect, or one of our own family members, our attitude is service-oriented, not self-oriented. Our concern is for the other person, not ourselves. When we have others' interests at heart, not just our own, they can sense it. They may not be able to put into words why they feel that way, but they do. And conversely, people get an uneasy feeling when they talk with people who have only their own self-interests in mind. It's the manifestation of nonverbal communication. What you are speaks so loudly that I can't hear what you're saying. The tongue can lie, but the body acts instinctively, subconsciously, and honestly. Our success in getting along with others and communicating effectively with them depends solely upon our ability to recognize their needs and help them fill those needs. Some people try to force their ideas upon others, but you and I use light to show the way. Remember the Aesop's fable in which the wind and the sun argued over which was the stronger? The wind said, "Do you see that old man down there? I can make him take his coat off quicker than you can." And the sun agreed to go behind a cloud while the wind blew up a storm. However, the harder the wind blew, the firmer the old man wrapped his coat around him. Eventually, the wind gave up, and the sun came out from behind the cloud and smiled kindly upon the old man. And before long, the old man mopped his brow, pulled off his coat, and strolled on his way. The sun knew the secret. Warmth, friendliness, and a gentle touch are always stronger than force and fury. The seventh great seed is the seed of faith, and it's one of the most powerful seeds of all. It was Saturday, November 1st, 1980, and Arnold Lemarand was taking a stroll. He heard some children screaming and hurried over to where they had been playing near a construction site. A massive cast-iron pipe had become dislodged and had rolled down on top of the children, pinning 5-year-old Philip Toth against the earth. The boy's head was being forced into the dirt directly under the huge pipe, and certain suffocation appeared to be imminent. Arnold Lemarand looked around, but there was no one to help him in the attempted rescue. He did the only thing he could. He reached down and lifted the 1,800-pound cast-iron pipe off Philip's head. And after the incident, his grown sons tried to move it, but they couldn't even budge it an inch. In an interview later with the Associated Press, Mr. Lemarand, who was 56 at the time, said that he had suffered a major heart attack 6 years before. "I tried to avoid heavy lifting," he smiled, with the young boy's arm around his neck. We hear about such miraculous power surges every so often, don't we? We hear of grandmothers lifting cars and firemen making impossible rescues in burning buildings, exhibiting superhuman strength. Those kinds of stories used to sound rather tall to me, since I've always been one to check the source and document the advice that people give me as to its validity. But in recent years, I've become a real believer in the power of faith and what it can do. Faith is the key to unlock the door of success for every human being, or it is the lock that imprisons and keeps that human being from ever experiencing success at all. As a positive power, faith is the promise of the realization of things hoped for and unseen. As a negative power, it is the premonition of our deepest fears. There is no such thing as the absence or lack of faith. There is simply the replacement of faith with its opposite belief, despair. Much has been written through the ages and in recent years about the self-fulfilling prophecy. My old friend S.I. Hayakawa refers to the self-fulfilling prophecy as a statement that is neither true nor false, but is capable of becoming true if it is believed. We learned in the second message on creativity and the imagination that the mind can't distinguish between something that is real and something that is vividly imagined. That's why the concepts of faith and belief are so important. The seventh best-kept secret of total success is that life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You won't necessarily get what you want in life, but in the long run, you will usually get what you expect. Although we have much to learn in understanding the mechanisms in the brain and the central nervous system, we are aware of the inextricable relationship between psyche and soma, mind and body. There is a definite reaction in the body as a result of the thoughts and concerns of the mind. What the mind harbors, the body manifests in some way. For example, when our fears and worries turn into anxiety, we suffer distress. This distress activates the endocrine system in our bodies, and production of hormones and antibodies changes. Our natural immunity system is less active, and our resistance levels are lowered. We become more vulnerable to outside bacteria and virus and other environmental hazards, which are always present. Scientists have known for many years that hormones play an important part in regulating certain biological processes. Adrenaline, for example, is the hormone that enables us to fight or flee in the face of danger or in response to a call for peak physical performance, like the man who lifted the pipe off of the boy's head. Insulin regulates the sugar levels in our blood. During the past 10 years, discoveries are showing us that morphine-like hormones, called endorphins, are being produced in our own bodies to block pain and give us a natural high. Well, if our thoughts can cause the brain to release adrenaline from the adrenal glands to help a 56-year-old heart patient lift an 1,800-pound pipe off a boy's head, and if our thoughts can produce natural pain relievers called endorphins that are 50 to 190 times as powerful as morphine, is it not possible for us to use this power of faith in our everyday life, with the only side effect being happiness? You bet it is. And when people look at you in awe and ask you why you're so pumped up and optimistically high on life, tell them you're on endorphins. They'll say, "It figures. We knew you were on something." Here are some action steps to more optimism and faith. First, fly with the eagles. Don't run around with the turkeys and the henny pennies who are looking up chanting the sky is falling. Optimism and realism go together. They're the problem-solving twins. Pessimism and cynicism are the two worst companions. As you help other people in your daily life, develop an inner circle of close associations in which the mutual attraction is not sharing problems or needs. The mutual attraction should be values and goals. Next, if you become depressed, visit any one of these 4 places: a children's hospital, a senior citizens retirement home, the burn ward at a hospital, or an orphanage. If seeing people worse off than yourself depresses you more, take the positive approach. Take a walk by a playground or a park where children are playing and laughing. Sometimes just a change of scenery can change your outlook. Next, listen to upbeat, inspiring music. Scan the national section on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Resist the temptation to waste time reading the local and national papers about the sordid details of someone else's tragedies. If possible, have breakfast and lunch with an optimist. Instead of camping in front of the TV at night, spend some time listening to and being involved with those that you love. Another step, change your vocabulary. Instead of "I'm worn out," say "I'm ready to relax after an active day." Instead of "why don't they do something," try "I know what I'm going to do." And instead of "why me, God," make it "try me, God." Next, get high on your thoughts and your goals. Instead of relief is just to swallow away, think of belief will help you follow the way. Get those endorphins going in your brain. Engage in positive recreation and education. Subscribe to cable TV programs specializing in the wonders of nature and in family health and cultural enrichment. And select the movies and TV you watch for their quality and the story value, rather than their commercial appeal. Visualize, think, and speak well of your health. Use positive self-talk every day. And don't dwell on colds and headaches and cuts and bruises and minor ailments. If you pay too much attention to them, they'll reward you by becoming your best friends, coming often to pay their respects. Remember, what the mind harbors, the body manifests. And call, visit, or write someone in need every day of your life. Demonstrate your faith by passing it on to someone else. Seed number 8 is the seed of adaptability. You know, these are troubled times. Many people bide their time and hope that the future will favor them with a brighter outlook. Others would gladly turn back the hands of time to the good old days when a haircut cost 2 bits, when the air was clean and when life was uncomplicated and enjoyable. Today, if you pick up the newspaper and turn to the editorial page, you might read something like this, which is a news item. The world is too big for us, too much going on, too many crimes, too much violence and excitement. Try as you will, you get behind in the race. It's an incessant strain to keep pace, and still you lose ground. Science empties its discoveries on you so fast that you stagger beneath them in hopeless bewilderment. Everything is high pressure. Human nature can't endure much more. This sound familiar? Well, this newspaper editorial reads like it could have been written last week or last night, but it actually appeared more than a century and a half ago on June 16, 1833, in the Atlantic Journal. That was back in the good old days. What does it mean to you and me? I believe that this simple, tattered editorial, 150 years old, teaches us one of the great secrets of success. The 8th best-kept secret of total success is that the good old days are here and now. And the main reason that the good old days are here and now is such a secret is that most people dwell on their current problems and remember the good times they had in the past. Another major reason it's such a well-kept secret is that most people don't learn from history that problems are normal. But the most important reason is that most people play up how awful conditions are today in order to justify their own lack of productivity and achievement. Every generation laments its position as the one that is living under the most pressing and difficult circumstances in history. By complaining about the cruel world and sticking their heads in the sand, they never really have to roll up their sleeves and solve their problems. They can blame their problems on their elders and on their children, or better still, on the government. And they can pursue society's favorite diversion, a scapegoat. A scapegoat is a game in which everyone runs and hides and tries to find someone else willing to be it. In all of my lectures and seminars for youth, I tell our leaders of tomorrow the truth, that the so-called good old days are here and now, because these are the days of our lives, not some soap opera, but the Super Bowl every day. This is the only time in history in which we will be living, and this is our time. I tell them that the good old days at the turn of the century when the horses were dying of cholera in the streets of New York. I tell them of the great old days when we used to take baths in a huge pan with water heated over a wood stove, and that we were fifth in line using the same bath water after our uncle, and he was a pig farmer, and we got ring around the person instead of the collar. I tell our young leaders about the good old days in the early 40s and 50s with polio and diphtheria and scarlet fever. I show them the headlines in the Boston Globe for November 12, 1857. The headlines read, "Energy Crisis Looms," with the subhead, "World to Go Dark, Whale Blubber Scarce." In the year 2020, our teenagers' kids will be driving liquid hydrogen-powered cars that will exhaust pure oxygen and steam into the atmosphere. They'll come home and say, "You mean you used to drive those fossil remains burning cars back in the 80s and 90s?" And their parents will retort, "Of course we did. Things were tough back then. We used to have to drive to school." "You mean you went to school?" the teenagers in 2020 will gasp in disbelief. "You're darn right we did. Your grandparents walked to school. We drove to school. Now you sit home on your rear end with this Apple 30 and the AT&T orbiting library videotex. We used to do that stuff in arcades back in the good old days. We called it Pac-Man and Frogger back then." Our sixth grade athletes today are breaking the Olympic world record set back during the 40s and 50s, and our young people are getting taller and stronger and healthier and smarter. I finish my lectures to the high schools of America by letting the students in on the location for their grandchildren's senior prom. In the 21st century, it will be common for proms to be held in foreign countries like Australia, which will be a popular choice for our kids. Australia will be a half-orbital shuttle run of 49 minutes, with a shuttle busload of formally attired space travelers enjoying the spectacular but brief panoramic view. They'll go to Australia for the prom, but they'll sneak over to Hong Kong for the after prom, telling us they were still in Australia with the chaperones the whole evening. Some things never change. We need to learn from that ancient Chinese definition of crisis that I use in all of my seminars. The Chinese symbols for crisis are identical to those for the word opportunity. Literally translated, it reads, "Crisis is an opportunity riding the dangerous wind." The best way to adapt to change and lead a successful life is to view crises as opportunities and to look at stumbling blocks in your path as stepping stones to the stars. Seed number 9 is the seed of perseverance. The seed of perseverance is similar to faith, but it's different in that it is the test of faith. Perseverance is hanging in there when the odds stack up against you, but you know you're right. One of the most fundamental character traits common to all successful individuals whom I have studied is that they all believe in God. With this belief in the order and ongoing promise of the universe, they've been able to develop creative imaginations and self-esteem and wisdom and goals and a deep faith in their convictions and commitments. Their faith has been the strong root system that has allowed them to bend and grow with the winds of change without their spirits breaking. This ability to bend and spring back is demonstrated in their unusual adaptability and in their habit of looking at the bright side of even the darkest situation. Maybe that's why real success is such a well-kept secret. Everybody wants it. Most people spend countless days and years dreaming about it. Everyone talks, writes, visualizes it, and goes to meetings to hear more about it. And that's as far as it goes. Why? People say they're putting their faith in a miracle. But miracles have been proven to be faith in action. When someone says, "What happened is a miracle," he usually follows in the next breath with, "Our prayers were answered, and we never gave up hope that if we just kept on working, we would see it through." The 9th best-kept secret of total success is that winners work at doing things the majority of the population are not willing to do. You'll notice that I said work at doing things that others are not willing to do. I did not say not able to do. I said not willing. An individual who will not read or learn or work is the real loser in the game of life. Those who cannot read or learn or work because of a disability or an oppressive environment are not losers. They are heroes and heroines in the struggle just to get to the starting line. The real losers in life are those who want to look like, earn like, dress like, take time off like, travel like, own like, retire like, and be like somebody else. They are losers by default rather than by defeat in the arena of life. In America, there is no excuse for default and despair because we throw out in our garbage every week what the people of the underdeveloped countries eat in a year. One Thanksgiving dinner for an American family of 5 would feed 20 starving citizens of one of the underdeveloped nations for a month. No socioeconomic condition in this country will disallow the planting and nurturing of the seeds of greatness. As the powerful character actor in the recent Rocky movie Mr. T of Rocky III puts it straight out on the table, "I may have been raised in the ghetto, but there ain't no ghetto in me." Yes, there is poverty and discrimination and ignorance and bigotry and injustice and irony in this country. And yes, there is opportunity and determination and information and openness and justice and faith in this country. What is needed is this best-kept secret called perseverance. Show me someone who has succeeded in the face of incredible odds, and I will show you a person who knows that perseverance makes the difference. One afternoon, my wife and I were invited to the home of Ray Kroc, founder of the world-famed McDonald's hamburger chain. Although we chatted for only 30 minutes or so, I learned a lot about the man behind McDonald's. 2 slogans of his say more than pages of history ever could. The first saying is one my grandmother used to repeat while we were working in her garden. "As long as you're green, you're growing. As soon as you're ripe, you start to rot." Kroc's second saying is my favorite, and it was also Vince Lombardi's favorite. "Press on. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful individuals with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent." Seed number 10 is perspective, putting it all together. When Loren Eiseley wrote The Star Thrower, he must have had someone like me in mind. It's the story of a man my age who goes to the seashore to try to gain true perspective on the meaning of life. It reminds me in some ways of one of my favorite books, Gift from the Sea, by Anne Morrow Lindbergh, which if you haven't read it, you really should treat yourself to a marvelous experience in self-dimension, written by the widow of the most famous American who ever lived, Charles Lindbergh. From the moment I read Eiseley's story that day on a secluded beach in Australia and considered its meaning, I decided that I must have been placed upon the earth to be a star thrower. The star thrower tells of a man in his prime who observes the shell collectors at the beach in the height of the tourist season, particularly after a storm, engaged in a kind of greedy madness to out-collect their less aggressive neighbors. He watches them scrambling along the beach at dawn with bundles of gathered starfish, hermit crabs, sea urchins, and other living shells. Arguing and toppling over each other, overburdened, they rush in a kind of frenzy to outdo each other for these fine specimens. The shell collectors then boil the shell houses, with occupants included, in outdoor kettles provided by the resort hotels as a service to guests, who will then show off their proud collections to envious relatives and friends back home. And I've met many people with the collector's morality and mentality. They're not unique to the seashore. They're in every country and every city and every hometown. They are the people who are trying to collect life and trying to own happiness. They are the consumers. As I became engrossed in Eiseley's book, I thought how easily I could have been the middle-aged man in this story. This man noticed a solitary human figure standing near the water's edge in the center of a rainbow caused by the sun-filled spray from the surf. The figure stooped over, then stood up, tossing an object out to sea beyond the breaking surf. The spectator, who could have been me, finally reached the older figure and asked him what he was doing. The old man with the bronzed, worn face answered softly, "I'm a star thrower." Expecting to see a sand dollar or perhaps a flat rock, like the ones he used to sail across the water for fun, the younger man came closer for a better look. The old man, with a quick yet gentle movement, picked up another starfish and spun it gracefully far out to sea. "It may live, if the offshore pull is strong enough," the old man smiled. Here was a human being who was not a collector. He said he had decided to be part of life and had dedicated himself to helping give the starfish another day, another week, another year, another opportunity for living. The younger man silently reached down and skipped a still-living star across the water toward freedom. He felt like a gardener sowing the seeds of life. He looked back over his shoulder. Against the rainbow, the old star thrower stooped and flung once more. He understood the secret. The star thrower's secret is for all of us to know and live by. Life cannot be collected. Happiness cannot be traveled to or owned or earned or worn or consumed. Happiness is the experience of living every minute with love, grace, and gratitude. The gift of life is not a treasure hunt. You cannot look for success. The treasure is within you. It only needs to be uncovered and discovered. The secret is to turn a life of collection into a life of celebration. All the best-kept secrets of success involve your perspective, how you see life from within. The seeds of greatness are the responses or attitudes you develop as a result of seeing the world more clearly. When you see more clearly, you see yourself as valuable, and your self-esteem grows strong. Seeing clearly enables your imagination to create and soar. Seeing more clearly gives you the understanding that you are responsible for learning as much and contributing as much as you can to life. When you see life from within, you see wisdom, purpose, and faith as cornerstones of your family's foundation. You see through the eyes of love and reach out and touch all those with whom you come in contact. Seeing from within is having the courage to adapt to and change and to persevere when the odds seem overwhelming. But you know you're right. Seeing from within is believing that beauty and goodness are worth planting every day. Perspective, seeing from within, is not only the 10th and final secret, it is the very essence of all that I have ever written and all that I have recorded and narrated in this audio cassette. How we see life makes all the difference. We need to seed and cultivate our gardens. The need to work in the garden never ends. It is never finished, never done. Plant apple seeds, and you get apple trees. Plant acorns, and you get great oak trees. Plant weeds, and you will harvest weeds. And plant the seeds of great ideas, and you will get great individuals. So go out and set the greatest success example you can by planting your own seeds of greatness. The seeds of greatness are within you.